All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition and the final edition of the Carvel Community Meeting for 2023. Today's date is December 13th, 2023. For those of you that are on the call today and you have something to wish to discuss, just a reminder to put something down below in the discussion topics section. For those that are watching this from home and aren't able to join us live or aren't on the call today, just a reminder that we meet every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m. Pacific time. It's a good opportunity for you to come and listen in to what the folks are working on, provide live feedback. You can ask questions if you have, feature requests or have trouble with using any of the tools. Just a really good way to come and get that help live. If you aren't able to join us at all, there are plenty of other ways to find us and ask questions and engage with us. You can find us in the Carvel channel in the Kubernetes Slack workspace. You can email us. You can find us obviously in any of our GitHub repos, and you can find us on Twitter at Carvel_dev. And if at any point you are interacting with us or any other members of the community, we ask that you please read and abide by our code of conduct here. We are always seeking information about how folks are using the Carvel tools. So within our main Carvel tool or our main Carvel repo, as well as all of our tools repos, there's a pinned issue that asks, how you're using the tools, and just to ask you to provide some of the information on your use case. It helps the developers understand how folks are using it, and it also helps the community get a better understanding how they might be able to use Carvel tools as well. So we really appreciate you adding a comment to those pinned issues with that information. And for all those that are on the call today, just make sure you add your name to the attendee list here and any organization that you are representing. Moving on to announcements. So I know most of everyone in the tech world is aware of the big acquisition that happened with Broadcom acquiring VMware. And with all acquisitions, there were folks who weren't unable to continue on with their employment with Broadcom. And unfortunately, we did have a team member that was part of that, and that was Varsha. Not Varsha from Red Hat, who is on the call today, but our Varsha. She was a huge part of our team. Really made an impact to the YTT. We're all gonna miss her incredible work and her work ethic and her engagement with the community. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew she unfortunately is no longer with the team. So if you're looking for anything, and if you're trying to tag her, she's going to be looking for employment elsewhere. Moving on to content announcements. So last week we had Thomas Fatal. He did a talk on Carvel at a CNCF meetup on December 5th, and that recording is found here. So be sure to check that out. If you have anything you wish to share, if you're have an upcoming talk, if you're writing a blog post, anything like that that involves Carvel content, we would like to know about it so that we can also share it with the community. And we have a sign-up sheet here, so be sure to add that information to the sign-up sheet, and we'll be in contact in order to get you some Carvel swag sent your way. Moving on to releases. Looks like we had vendor 0.38.0. who can
Yeah.
get information.
Yeah. Nancy, can you open this 322? So this releases has two bug fixes. I'll just show what are those bugs. Actually, we had that Fritz few days back has added a new feature to have a lazy sync in the vendor. So that has a bug like if the config has the lazy configuration and we are syncing first time it's working fine, and if we're syncing again for the second time, instead of skipping it was removing that directly completely. So that fix has been done in this release. Second one is like if you're running the vendor sync with the directory and having some subdirectory, something like chart space sorry chart slash test something, then that time it was actually for the first time when there is a no vendor like sync has done. So that time it was throwing an error in writing the log file, and it was actually syncing the directory but just showing the error and not generating the log file. So that fix has been done. So thanks, Frisk, for all your contribution you are doing these tests. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, huge thanks to Fritz. I know him and his team put a lot of work into that, and it was a few months of joining the community meeting and showing us demos and writing up proposals and gathering feedback. So thank you so much. Huge contributions to the community. Any questions or comments on this? Okay. We have so we can move on to the project roadmap, but I know there's probably a lot of updates that we still need to do here. It was last updated in October, and we've had just a lot going on since the acquisition, kind of drinking from the fire hose right now, making sure we're getting all transitions right. So I won't go into asking for any updates here unless anyone does have some specific updates. I just want to let the community know we just need to make updates to this docket soon, because I know that we are going to hit these targets. I know that lazy syncing is just done, but and does anybody have anything else they wanted to share with this? Cool. All right, moving on to backlog stuff. K-control, making bits of K-control more configurable and consumable.
I can chat about that. So we actually consume bits of K-control downstream to offer like a bit more of an opinionated experience to internal users, right? And we are sort of, I won't dive into the details, but we're sort of building something where the CLI is talking to not a typical Kubernetes API server. And so we wanted to make certain bits of them more configurable so that it's easier to use parts of K-control which are relevant. So yeah, that's what's happening there.
Oh, thanks, Samek. And what about kapp-controller, the signing of release artifacts?
Yeah, so this is actually related to one of the items on the roadmap, but since I put it in here, I'll let it be. So we've been meaning to update our pipelines according to Thomas's proposal that was approved. And as a first step, we did that for kapp-controller, and that covers a controller and a CLI. So we're hoping, like, I guess Praveen had some folks in mind, and we're hoping to sort of get in touch with folks who are looking to contribute so that they can do the rest, because it's repeatable work and it might be a good first contribution. Madan, maybe you want to add something since you did the PR for this?
Yeah, so there was an open issue on this. I think this is not the proposal. One second, maybe I'll fetch the proposal.
Yeah, I was just linking to Thomas's original proposal that Samik mentioned, but if there is anything to link out here, please do so.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure. It is along with the PR, we have the issues, and there we have the proposal URL as well. So yeah, in the PR itself, we have the URL. Yeah, 1 second. I'm sharing. Yeah, I have shared it in the Zoom chat.
All right.
So we need to sign every artifact for every artifacts which we are releasing on the Carvel toolchain. But right now, I have worked on the implementation for signing the k-control binary as well as the kapp-controller source image. So the PR is under review, and yeah, once this is done, then we can welcome the you know for the new contributors. This could be a good first issue, and yeah.
All right. Awesome. I love seeing this moving along. It's great. Lots of team effort.
Here is the PR I have worked on.
All right. Yeah, if anyone's out there watching this and have comments and want to help working on it, please reach out. Anyone else on the call have any comments or questions on this? All right. Moving on to discussion topics. So Varsha from Operator Framework team, you have a quick demo you want to do?
Yeah, I can share my screen and start with the demo. So yeah, hey everyone. This is a continuation from yesterday's discussion. Thanks, Praveen and Samik for joining yesterday and coming in at the OLM community meeting. We had discussion about the OLM workflow and also the registry V1 bundle format, whose templating mechanism we are trying to support in kapp-controller. So I wanted to take this opportunity to just quickly go over the high-level workflow of deploying an operator with OLM V1 and also go in detail about the registry V1 format. And probably that would give a better idea on what the registry V1 bundle looks like and what is the templating mechanism which we are talking about. So hopefully my terminal is visible and it's big enough. So yeah, we have three personas here in OLM. One is the operator author who creates and packages the operator. The second is the cluster admin. And the third one is a consumer who installs an operator. So let's start from the beginning where we have an operator author who builds an operator, packages it into a bundle, which is an OLM compatible format. And this is where the registry V1 concept comes in. I'll explain in detail about what the format looks like and what we are talking about, what OLM does with it. But just to highlight, registry V1 is one of the supported OLM compatible formats in which an operator author has to package an operator. Now, the second step is where the the bundle is added to a catalog, and that catalog is available on cluster. Now, this is one of the catalog APIs, and without going into the implementation detail, this API is pretty much similar to package repository, though the internals differ. But in very simple terms, we have a controller which takes in an image, unpacks its contents, and makes all the bundles or packages inside a catalog available through a HTTP endpoint. Now, once that is done, the next step involves installing a particular operator on cluster, and this is where the consumer comes in. So this is also very pretty much similar to package install. And for the ease of it, I have everything ready in my cluster. I have OLM components and other things ready, and also an operator running to explain, to quickly show what an operator API looks like, and to note this is in alpha stage and it's like open to a lot of changes. There's a lot of new functionalities which would be added eventually. But a user specifies that they want to install a operator from package Argo CD with version 0.6 and probably a bit more constrained. They could specify specific more constraints, like depends on how we decide on expanding the spec. So this kind of looks very similar to package install. But what happens is once the operator is installed, once the operator API is created, we have a controller which passes on the inputs from the operator API to an in-cluster resolver. We call it DEPI. So what the resolver does is it basically takes in the constraints, it takes in the name of the package, checks whether that package is available, checks if the constraints are satisfied, if there are any dependent CRDs which are available in the catalog, which need to be installed, the version requirements, so on and so forth. And also some of the pre-flight checks before installing are also a part of this resolution process. Now, once the resolution is successful, we stamp a status telling, yes, it's successful. Let's go on and deploy the particular contents of the bundle. Now, this is where we have another component called Ruckpack. Now, Ruckpack is pretty similar to what kapp-controller is, but in simple terms, Ruckpack is going to take in a specific bundle image, which is the Argo CD operator here, and it's going to install the Argo CD contents to it. So this is the overall workflow of what the end-to-end process of installing an operator looks like. There are a lot more features related to upgrading and more features related to resolution and things. I will not go over in depth about them, but this was just to show over the workflow. Now coming into the V1, the registry V1 templating, which we wanted to talk about. So this is a super basic example of a registry V1 bundle. So just to revisit, a registry V1 bundle is created by an operator author. It's a specific packaging format. And what it contains is two set of folders. One is manifest and metadata. Manifests contain a bunch of CRDs, which are to be installed along with specific resources for the operator. One important thing that this contains is CSV, which is known as the cluster service version. Now, the CSV is created from operator metadata. It basically specifies the necessary resources which are required to run the operator. So for example, we will have the list of list of CRDs which are going to get installed along with the operator. We would also have permissions which are given to the operator, and also we have some we have install modes. Yep, depending on whether the operator is cluster scoped, in the sense the operator is watching a single namespace, multi namespace, or all namespaces. In simple terms, there's more to install modes, but yeah, pretty much related to what the operator is watching. And we also have a bunch of metadata on the other stuff, the name, provider name, logo, and things like that. Something to highlight is we also have this replaces and skips options, which help us in creating an upgrade graph between one version of the operator to another. So what happens is, based on whatever we have in CSV and whatever install mode is supported, we create a bunch of manifests, we in the sense OLM. So for example, based on the permissions specified here, we could create cluster roles, cluster role bindings, or service accounts, and things like that. So once those are created, they are then applied on to the cluster by OLM. And this is what is something we are trying to introduce in the templating step. So the templating step would basically take in the CSV and spit out a bunch of YAMLs by processing the CSV based on whatever data is provided. Now, once a bunch of say somebody coming to could we yeah, I'll just answer that question. So based on whatever manifests are generated from CSV, there's an ordering mechanism. I don't want to go deep into it, but basically those are applied on cluster. So to just try out and create a POC on how things would look like in YTT, I just created a super simple YTT template, which basically processes the CSV and creates this bunch of manifests. So in this case, it's basically taking in the Prometheus CSV and it's giving out the service account, the cluster role, the cluster role binding, and also the deployments which are to be installed on the cluster. So this is what we would like to introduce in the templating step. So I would like to pause here. The one more feature which I wanted to show and which would probably be related to our next discussion would be how status is, how we expose the status of individual resources in case it's unhealthy. So, yep, any questions? Yeah, Samik, to answer your question, dependency mapping. So the dependency resolution process in detail is kind of different, and I would not say different, is in which we take a list of constraints which are provided through the operator API, and we provide the universe of available packages in the catalog. Now we have a SAT solver, which basically tells us whether the constraints can or cannot be satisfied based on the universe which is provided. And the resolver basically returns us a solution set telling these are the list of operators, these are the list of bundles which need to be installed, which include the specific dependencies also along, which come along with the main operator. So for example, Argo CD is dependent on, I don't know, XYZ operator, it would list out the specific CRDs, other bundle packages which also need to be installed. And I think Andy has linked the entire resolver architecture.
Yeah, thanks for that. That helps.
Before I open the floor for discussion, just one thing which I wanted to show, which we can probably look at, which we can discuss more about, is related to one of the issues which I've opened. And it's basically exposing the status of, it's basically watching the health of individual resources and exposing the status in case one of a particular resource is unhealthy or not available. So for example, in this case, I would go ahead and say delete one of the pods in Argo CD operator. So what we see here is we have the status updated to show, say, the deployment is unhealthy. We have not enough amount of replicas available. So eventually, since the object is being watched, the particular resource is being watched through informers, there is a reconciliation happening again, and we eventually make sure that the enough number of replicas are available. Basically, there is a trigger in case one of the resources is unhealthy. So this is one of the feature which we wanted to have in the kapp-controller. And this is an example of how a similar, how the feature looks very similar in case of rug pack. So, yeah. Andy, would you like to add anything?
I think the only thing I would add is just to reiterate that this registry v1 bundle format is it's prescriptive in how you package things, and it's restrictive in what you're allowed to package. So in the cluster service version, you can only, I believe, specify deployments. I don't know off the top of my head if we support things like stateful sets. There's only certain types of manifests that can be included in the manifest directory. OLM hard codes what it allows, and if it encounters a kind that is not in its allowed list, it will not process it. And ultimately, I think transitioning towards a more open format that doesn't have these restrictions would be helpful. And we're not there yet because we have a lot of existing content that is in this format. And so the ability to deploy this via kapp-controller would open a lot of doors for us, and I imagine for kapp-controller as well. And the last thing I'll say is great job on the demos, Varja. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, just to add to it, the YTT logic right now just like takes in a CSV and splits out the deployment. And this is something which we are missing, being able just to maintain the compatibility, backwards compatibility. We are missing the option in which we are able to verify the particular set of resources which are acceptable by V1, as Andy mentioned.
Yeah, sure. I guess that, like, at least for me, that was a lot to process. Lots of new stuff. I have a couple of questions. Like, I might have missed some parts. Like the csv.waml that you showed us, like, where does that come into picture in OLM? Like, not in the YTT workflow that you were trying, but you did, I think you did mention it, but I missed that part. So
yeah, so CSV is a part of a registry V1 bundle. So
okay.
This comes in the operator author persona. So an operator author creates an operator, it bundles, they bundle it into a format which can be recognized by OLM. So that is the registry V1 format, and CSV is one of the manifest, which is part of that particular registry V1 bundle.
Okay. Yeah,
Does your question? Right.
yeah, I did think so. Like, I was looking at the directory structure you were sharing and I couldn't see it there. So I was just curious. But yeah, that makes sense.
I think this is the one. So basically, an operator bundle would look like this: the Prometheus directory, the Prometheus RugPack directory, which contains manifests, metadata. Metadata is basically a set of annotations which are added to a particular bundle, and a bundle.docker file, which is used to create a bundle image. And CSV is probably so the CSV is basically cluster service version.yaml. I think it's because of the long name. So it's basically a part of the manifest
Okay.
directory.
Okay. Cool. And like, I think there are lots of things that are defined based on the CSV, like, for example, the permissions. And I think YTT, like using YTT would help with those. But I guess there are like other things like dependency management, and would YTT help with those? I think in some scenarios maybe, but not with everything, I guess.
I don't. I'm not sure YTT would help with dependency related things.
Yeah.
Because dependency resolution is a process which happens much before a registry view and bundle is unpacked. So the process looks like operator controller accepts an operator API. It passes it to the resolver, and then it hands it over to another controller, another component known as RugPack, and it basically unpacks, converts it into a set of manifests and installs in cluster. So the in-cluster dependency resolver is independent. It's going to take in the constraints which are specified by the user, and it's going to return a solution based on whatever packages are available in the catalog. So I assume, I
Okay.
don't think YTT would be helpful. Go ahead, Andy.
I agree with your assessment, Barsha, and just a little bit more additional information. The metadata about dependencies and permissions and all of that is spread across a few different places, as Barsha demonstrated. All of that is available both in the bundle itself, which is packaged as an OCI image, and it's also available if and when you put the bundle information into a catalog. So when Barsha was saying that the operator controller is doing resolution before it does anything with YTT and processing manifests, that information is coming from the catalog around what dependencies are requirements and anything else that needs to be taken into account to determine if the user's request can be satisfied or not.
Makes sense.
One quick question from my side. So it looks like when we're defining package dependencies, right, we're using like a Semver constraint there. So like, do we like assume that the case is that there are no maybe two catalogs adding the same version of the same package? Is that something that needs to be thought of? Like in my head, I was somehow I've always thought that if we do dependency management, we would rely a lot more on SHA-SUMs. Yeah, like just wondering if that's like a prereq where we don't have overlapping catalogs.
I think you could go a couple different ways. What you tend to see in the like Yum RPM world is a priority value that the administrator can assign to each catalog, so to speak. So in the event of duplicate entries, the catalog's priority would govern which one is selected. I think we're considering doing that in OLM v1. It's not implemented at the moment, but the existing dependency resolution logic that we have is not based on SHAs or hashes. It's just based on references to names and versions, and in the case of APIs, GBKs. And I think we'd probably want to stick with that.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this topic? Any questions?
Just one last question. Varsha, you had mentioned that you were able to, I think, use YTT for templating. Like, was it almost, or like, you tried it and everything did work out as expected?
Yeah, so the demo which I showed, it basically took in YTT. So it basically took in the CSV and gave out the list of manifests. So it kind of takes care of the conversion, which we want between registry v1 to the plain set of manifests which we want to apply. The additional aspects which Andy was mentioning in terms of the checks which we want to add, whether a particular bunch of resources are supported, particular GVKs are supported or not by OLM. So things like that, I was not able to replicate through YTT, and this is where probably adding the templating would be more helpful. Right, Andy?
My opinion here is I don't think that we need to try and replicate restricting what types are allowed versus disallowed. I don't think the engineering effort is worth it in terms of the reward. So if we're able to use YTT to do everything except prevent disallowed GVKs from coming in, I'd consider that a win and sufficient. Was there anything else, Varsha, that you couldn't do purely with YTT?
No, I think with YTT, things were pretty smooth in terms of what we wanted with registry view, apart from that aspect, Andy. So YTT was pretty helpful.
Okay, cool.
Regarding the GVKs, like there are two types of conditions, like some are allowed and some GVKs are disallowed.
There's just a hard-coded list of what I guess at the time it was written was expected to be supported. And if you try to create a bundle that includes a resource that's not in that hard-coded list, then OLM won't process it. I don't know the history behind that. I'm not sure why it's there.
Just one quick question about how the permissions required for an operator are listed out, right? So is there like some fancy way of maybe generating this list and when someone's authoring an operator, or is this something that's manually maintained right now?
So we do have another tool called Operator SDK. So when you create an operator using SDK, we do have certain helpers, certain commands, which help you generate the list of, which help you generate, make the whole bundle. So that kind of pre-populates most of the things in the CSV and gets you to the point where the bundle is ready to be accepted by OLM. So either users can do it manually, package it manually if they are not using Operator SDK, but if they are using, we also have a bunch of helpers to create the CSV and the entire bundle basically.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Any further questions?
The one follow-up which I wanted to ask is what do you all think about supporting the state, exposing the status through the app CRs, exposing the status of individual resources through the app CR. So I know we had a discussion on Slack, and I've also created an issue. So this was a demo, like the last bit was a demo on how we would like to expose, how we would like to watch individual resources which are created by a particular bundle or a package and expose the status in case one of them is unhealthy and re-trigger a reconciliation. So any thoughts on how you all would like to proceed? Do we want to continue discussion on that in the issue, or do we require more of a proposal kind of thing similar to the templating thing which we did, and how do you want to proceed with it?
Like my
For
sorry, Praveen, go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
for
all right, you go ahead. You go ahead. My bad.
okay. I was saying like for the status one, I think the idea does make sense, and since we had already had a discussion on Slack, I guess like you could have a proposal ready, and like we can take a look at it and proceed with it. So I can mark the issue as Carvel accepted. I think I already did. No, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. I'll mark the issue as accepted, and we can go ahead with the proposal.
Sounds good. Thanks. Thanks, Brian.
Similar thoughts as well. And I was just saying that we already have a list of conditions. So we sort of need to figure out how we can delegate some logic back to OLM so that it can populate some additional stuff if it requires it in a certain way. Or otherwise we can sort of think about how we can both agree on a certain format. And a proposal, yeah, would be definitely helpful while we take it ahead.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. We don't have a particular inclination on the format because it's just populating the error in the status. But yeah, I can get a proposal ready, and then we can think if we want to add any other information or metadata and things like that on the status to improve the feature. But yeah, that sounds good. Thanks.
Just one more point regarding the GVK thing. Like there is also downward API support in templating step. Like not sure if that'll be helpful or not, but basically like we can get the GVK supported on that cluster using that.
Sorry, Praveen, could you elaborate on that? I didn't
Like
catch
there
it.
is okay, let me also share the link for app spec. So in the templating step, like there is a downward API support, like values from, and we can get the GVKs supported on the cluster. I'm not sure how much helpful it will be, but just sharing that it's there.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. I'm not sure what was the reason behind supporting a particular set of GVKs. Was it because eventually only those GVKs were available in cluster at that point of time? I'm not sure of the exact reason, but yeah, we'll probably take a look at that. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, we have about 10 minutes left. Do you want to call out one of the last items? Be rethinking the cap control architecture discussion topic, particularly Thomas's ongoing proposal with that.
I just wanted to call out that Thomas is working on this because for now we can figure out where some of the logic that helps OLM can live within our tools. But so what this proposal suggests is we move towards a format similar to, let's say, cross-plane functions, where you can sort of delegate certain a package install will be able to delegate certain executions to something with a uniform API, right, running in a pod. And if this goes ahead, I'm guessing we could also make OLM one of these plugins, and we might even publish our own tools as, out of the box plugins, right? So just something that we should keep a context of. And if we think like this is the way to go, we could put like more efforts in this direction right off the bat. So yeah, just thought it's worth a call out that Thomas has been giving this some thought.
We'll probably look into this proposal, and yeah, I haven't looked into the proposal yet, so this
Oh
is
yeah,
useful.
so this is not published yet because Thomas is still working on it, but I thought it's worth calling out.
Okay, and any other comments or questions regarding that? Okay. And anything else folks wish to bring up and talk about before we end the meeting? Okay, I just want to thank Varsha for all the work she put in today for the demo, and guiding us through all of that and all the work that's been going on that end. It's really exciting to have this collaboration unfolding, and it's just really cool to see, and just kind of highlights the power of open source and why it lends itself to, I guess, more interesting development. So just really cool. With that, I just will end the meeting, and thank you all for joining today. And if you're watching this from home and you have comments on anything we wish we have discussed, please feel free to add those comments to the linked out issues, the PRs, proposals, all of that, or you can find us in Slack, anywhere that you feel comfortable sharing your thoughts. Otherwise, we'll see you next month for our next community meeting and our very first one for 2024. So thank you and happy holidays to everyone. Be safe, and we will see you next year. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.